Sup, Reddit. I never imagined I'd be the guy typing out the complete implosion of his life at 3 in the morning with nothing but a bottle of soda for company. But here we are. So welcome to the dumpster fire. Because this is exactly what it feels like. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and I own a commercial HVAC company in Phoenix that I built from absolute zero. The kind of zero where my old man left me nothing but a rusted Ford Ranger, $1,600 in gambling debts, and a toolbox so ancient it probably belonged in a museum, which is about as heartwarming an inheritance as it sounds. 7 years of grinding later, the company clears around $320,000 a year, with 11 guys on payroll, and every callus on my hands is a reminder of lessons learned the hard way. My fiancée, Jocelyn, 30 years old, and I had been together for 4 years, and she was pharmaceutical sales gorgeous, the kind of woman who could walk into a dive bar and make every guy forget what he was doing, smart, ambitious, and expensive as hell. I bought her a $28,000 engagement ring with a custom setting, done without hesitation, because she said she deserved perfection. The wedding was scheduled for October, 3 months out, and I'd already dropped $7,000 on a resort venue in Sedona and another $3,000 on a photographer who'd once shot a celebrity wedding. I was working 14-hour days making sure we'd start married life debt-free, because that's who I am, and I don't believe in owing anyone anything. My business partner, Wade, had been with me for 2.5 years, and I brought him on to schmooze property managers while I actually fixed their broken systems. The guy could sell anything, had this smooth confidence that made clients trust him within 10 minutes, and together we were chasing a multi-million-dollar contract servicing all the HVAC systems for a new casino resort near Tucson, the kind of opportunity that sets you up for life. We spent 8 months building relationships, submitting proposals, underbidding competitors, with Wade handling the people and me handling the work, a perfect setup, or at least that's what I thought. That Thursday started normal enough, because I was supposed to be on a commercial job until 9 p.m., dealing with a catastrophic chiller failure at an office building where some rookie maintenance guy had ignored warning signs for months and now the whole system was cooked, with the building owner threatening lawsuits because his tenants were melting in 100-degree offices. My crew busted their backs all day, replacing the compressor, flushing the refrigerant lines, rebuilding half the control system, while my hands went raw from the heat and my shirt soaked through with sweat. We got the inspector out at 4 for emergency certification, and he passed us while acting like he was doing us the biggest favor in human history, and by 5 we were done, sweaty, exhausted, covered in refrigerant oil and duct tape residue, but done. I figured I'd head home early, surprise Jocelyn, maybe take her to that overpriced sushi place she'd been wanting to try, because I couldn't even remember the last time we'd had an actual date night. Wade's black Silverado was parked in my driveway when I pulled up, which wasn't unusual since he came over constantly to discuss business or go over client presentations, and we'd been working on the casino pitch that week, but I still couldn't figure out why the hell he was there when I wasn't home. Then I walked through my front door, and the living room was silent, with both of them sitting on my leather sectional, Jocelyn on one end and Wade on the other, not touching, not talking, just sitting there like two people waiting for execution. Jocelyn's eyes were swollen and red, mascara streaked down her face in black rivers, and she looked like she'd been crying for hours, while Wade couldn't even look at me, just kept staring at the floor like it held the secrets of the universe. Every alarm in my body started screaming as I asked, "Hey, what's going on?" Still holding my keys, my work boots tracking dirt across the floor, and Jocelyn took this deep, shaky breath, the kind people take before they detonate your entire life, and said my name in a voice that was barely a whisper before telling me she was pregnant. My first reaction was pure, stupid joy, because we'd talked about kids after the wedding and accidents happen, and I was already doing the math in my head, thinking the baby would arrive around our first anniversary and that it was actually perfect timing. I dropped my keys on the table and smiled like a complete idiot, telling her it was incredible and that we were going to be parents as I started walking toward her, asking why she was crying when this was amazing, and that's when Wade finally looked up, and the expression on his face will haunt me forever, a mix of guilt and fear with this weird defiance underneath it all, like he knew he'd messed up but also dared me to do something about it, before he said, in a cracking voice, that it was his, that the baby was his, and that he was sorry. The room tilted sideways, I grabbed the back of a chair to keep from falling, and asked him what he'd just said, while Wade swallowed hard and told me it started about 6 months ago, that they couldn't help themselves, that the attraction was too strong, that they never meant for it to happen, that they tried to stop and couldn't. I just stared at him, unable to even form words, as Jocelyn's crying got louder and she said she loved me. She said she loved me, said she really did, but that she was just so confused right now and didn't know what she wanted, saying it like she was the victim, like this was all happening to her instead of something she had chosen every single day for half a year. You don't know what you want? I repeated it slowly, tasting the words as they came out. You've been screwing my business partner for 6 months and you don't know what you want. She said it wasn't that simple, and I remember thinking that actually, Jocelyn, it was exactly that simple. Then came the part that still makes me want to put my fist through a wall when I think about it, because Wade leaned forward on my couch, hands clasped together like he was about to pitch me a business proposal, and said, "Look, Adam, I think we can work this out." I laughed, actually laughed, because work this out didn't even sound real coming out of his mouth. Work this out? He kept going, talking about how our friendship and our business partnership were too valuable to destroy over this, how we were all adults here and could navigate this maturely. And Jocelyn nodded along like he was reciting poetry instead of the most delusional garbage ever spoken by human lips. She even suggested maybe we could postpone the wedding for just a while, that she could keep living here while she sorted out her feelings and I sorted out mine. And I remember saying it back to her, flat and dead, in my own house that I pay for. How long? I asked Wade directly, looking straight at him. Exactly how long? He said 6 months, 6 freaking months, right when we had landed the biggest contract of my career. That $1 million office complex that was supposed to put us on the map, while I was working 16-hour days to build our future, sleeping 4 hours a night, eating gas station sandwiches for dinner, grinding myself into dust. While I was doing that, my fiancée was sleeping with my business partner in my bed. 12 weeks pregnant, I said, doing the math out loud. So you got pregnant about 3 months into the affair, and neither of them said a word. I remembered New Year's, remembered working straight through to January 2nd, coming home exhausted, giving Jocelyn the diamond tennis bracelet she'd been hinting about for months, then going back to work on the 3rd because we had an emergency call, and they'd been together while I was doing that, while I was killing myself for our future, while they were building their own. I turned to Wade and just looked at him, let the silence stretch until he started squirming, then told him to get out of my house, not yelling, not screaming, just saying it in this flat, dead voice that didn't even sound like me. Wade stood up with his hands raised like I was pointing a gun at him and told me to come on, to talk about this, saying our business was too important to destroy over personal complications, and I remember repeating that phrase in my head, personal complications, as I took one step toward him and asked if he really knocked up my fiancée and was calling it a personal complication, like it was a scheduling conflict. He started saying we'd built something together, years of work, that we could separate the business from, and I took another step and told him he had about 5 seconds to walk out that door before I dragged him out by his throat. His whole demeanor changed then, the smooth salesman confidence evaporating like water on hot concrete. His face going pale as he backed up and bumped into the coffee table, stammering my name, saying this was crazy, counting down as I did, and when I hit 3 he grabbed his keys off the counter and practically scrambled for the door, not even looking at Jocelyn, not saying goodbye, just bolting like the coward he always was underneath that slick exterior. The door slammed behind him, and a second later I heard his Silverado peel out of my driveway like his ass was on fire. And I remember thinking how funny it was how fast that brotherhood disappeared when things got real. I turned to Jocelyn, who was frozen on the couch, mascara still running, eyes wide, like she'd just watched a stranger walk into her living room wearing my face. And when she said my name and asked me to let her explain, I told her she was next. She blinked and asked what, and I told her I wanted her out of this house tonight. And when she said I couldn't do that because it was her home too and she lived there, I told her name wasn't on a damn thing, not the mortgage, not the deed, not even the utility bills, keeping my voice flat and controlled as I told her she had until I got back to pack whatever she could carry, and anything still there after that was going in the dumpster. Her crying got louder then, that manipulative, performative sobbing that used to make me want to fix whatever was wrong. But now it just sounded like static, and when she asked where she was supposed to go because she didn't have anywhere, I told her she should have thought about that before she spread her legs for my business partner. She flinched like I'd slapped her and begged me, saying she loved me, that she'd made a mistake, that couples survive this all the time, that we just needed counseling and needed to talk, and I told her no, we didn't, grabbed my keys off the table, and told her she wanted Wade so bad she could go find him and maybe he'd let her cry on his shoulder in whatever parking lot he was hiding in right now. I walked to the door, stopped, turned back one last time, thought about 11 months of engagement, 4 years together, a $28,000 ring, all of it thrown away for a guy who just ran out of my house like a scared little coward, shook my head, told her they deserved each other, then walked out, got in my truck, drove to my buddy's place, and didn't look back. Gavin runs his own plumbing business and does subcontract work for my company, and I've known him since we were both working random gigs in college to pay tuition. A good guy with a dark sense of humor. The kind of friend who answers the door with snacks and pizza when you show up unannounced at 6 p.m. looking like death. And when he took one look at my face he asked, "Man, who died?" And I told him everything, every word, every detail, every expression on their worthless faces. He listened to the whole thing, handed me a soda, cracked open his own, and just waited until I was done. "So, your business partner knocked up your fiancé, and their solution is for everyone to share custody of the situation, like some kind of reality show. That's the proposal." He took a long drink and shook his head. "Bro, that's rough. But hey, at least now we know Wade's only good at laying one kind of pipe." I almost laughed. Almost. Then he said something that stuck with me. "You know what this looks like to me? Jocelyn watches you build this company from nothing, sees your bank account growing. Meanwhile Wade's right there feeding her lines about how he's the real brains, how he's going to take over eventually. She didn't just fall into bed with him by accident. Man. She hedged her bets. Sounded paranoid, but also weirdly made perfect sense. The next 4 days were a nightmare, not the dramatic kind where everything happens at once, but the slow, grinding kind where every phone call brings new problems and every solution costs money I didn't have lying around. I called the contract attorney who'd drawn up our partnership agreement. $500 just to review the dissolution clause over the phone. The news was worse than I expected. Without documented cause, Wade can force you to buy out his shares at fair market value. With your current contracts, that's over $300,000. Money I didn't have. What counts as cause? Breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, misrepresentation to clients, criminal activity. Anything you can document that shows he violated his obligations to the partnership. I didn't have any of that yet. The house, Jocelyn had tenant rights even without a lease. 30-day eviction notice minimum, probably longer if she contested it. Longer still if she played the pregnancy card. The wedding, $10,000 in non-refundable deposits, vaporized. Venue didn't give a damn about my situation. The engagement ring, $28,000 on her finger, custom piece, non-returnable. Arizona law says if she breaks the engagement, I can demand it back. If I break it, she keeps it. If it's contested, I'd need a lawyer and more money I didn't have. Every direction I turned, I was bleeding cash or staring down months of legal hell. Jocelyn's text started that first night and didn't stop. "I never meant to hurt you. We need to talk about this like adults. I'm pregnant and scared, Adam. I need to know I have somewhere safe to stay. You could at least respond. I'm carrying a child and dealing with hormones, and you're just ignoring me. My mother is right about you. You only care about money and work." WDE's messages were almost worse. "Brother, I know this is complicated, but we've built something special together. The company is bigger than any personal issues. You're angry right now. I get it. But don't make any permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Think about what we're throwing away." The audacity was almost impressive. Guy knocks up my fiancé and is telling me not to make emotional decisions. I didn't respond to any of it. Just screenshot everything and saved it to a folder. Gavin read through the messages and just shook his head. They're both still playing the game. Still think they can manipulate me into accepting this. Wade thinks he can smooth talk his way out of consequences. Jocelyn thinks she can guilt-trip me into playing house. They don't get that the game's over. On day 5, I made a decision. I was done playing defense. Time to go nuclear. But nuclear requires ammunition, and ammunition requires evidence. So I started digging. I hired a proper business attorney, a real attorney with 30 years of experience and an hourly rate that made my eyes water. $600 just to sit down and talk. Worth every penny. First thing she said, if you want to dissolve this partnership without getting destroyed, we need cause. Documented, ironclad cause. Get me everything, every bank statement, every contract, every email, every expense report, every piece of paper connected to your business for the past 3 years. So I did. Spent 4 solid days going through every financial document, every email thread, every receipt. My buddy brought over Chinese food and energy drinks while I worked through the nights, spreading everything across his dining room table because I still couldn't go back to my own house without wanting to burn it down. The first night was expense reports, just endless credit card statements and receipts. I started seeing patterns real quick. Charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to on nights I was working job sites, hotel rooms in cities where we had no clients, car rentals when Wade already had a company truck. Found a $612 charge at Steak 44 on the same night I was on a rooftop unit in Mesa until midnight. The second night was emails, thousands of them. Wade had been sloppy, using his company email for everything because he never thought I'd actually look. Found conversations with Jocelyn planning their hookups. One email subject line just said, "Tonight," sent at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday from his company address. Body of the email, Adam's working late again. The third night was contract documents. That's when I found Wade's emails to clients, positioning himself as the real boss. Not just 1 or 2, dozens of them. One email where he straight up called himself senior partner and said I handled the technical execution. A systematic campaign to undermine me while I was busy keeping the business running. The fourth night was bank records. I cross-referenced every expense Wade had charged to the company against our actual business needs. Every lunch that turned out to be a date with Jocelyn. Every client meeting that was actually him playing golf with his buddies. Every business trip that had no corresponding client or contract. Found a trip charge to Dallas, hotel, rental car, meals, with 0 matching calendar entry. No proposal. Nothing. What I found changed everything. Wade had been embezzling client dinners at steakhouses I never approved, sometimes $600 a pop, charging straight to the business account. Golf outings at country clubs, $300 to $400 each, a couple of times a month. A networking trip to Vegas that cost $4,800, including a suite at the Aria, VIP club fees, and room service charges that made my head spin. In total, over $37,000 in unauthorized personal expenses over 18 months. Money that should have been profit. Money that could have gone to employee bonuses or new equipment. Money that went to financing Wade's lifestyle while I was eating convenience store burritos. But that wasn't even the worst part. I found emails, actual email chains, where Wade had been positioning himself as the real owner, telling potential clients he was the senior partner and I was the technical guy, giving out his personal cell and telling people to contact him directly for any major decisions. Systematically undermining my authority while I was busy actually running the business. One email stood out. Wade had written to a potential client, "Adam is great with the hands-on stuff. But between you and me, the strategic vision comes from my end. When we expand into resort properties, I'll be spearheading that initiative." Strategic vision from the guy who couldn't identify a compressor if his life depended on it. My attorney's eyes lit up when I showed her everything. "This is embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty," she said, flipping through expense reports. "And this, holding up the emails, is fraud and misrepresentation. We can use this to dissolve the partnership for cause." I asked what that meant for Wade's stake. "For cause changes everything," she said. "It turns his 40% from a payday into a negotiation. We calculate his equity based on company value before these current contracts. His stake right now? Maybe $100,000. If we'd done this after your casino deal closed? Over $300,000. Wade's inability to keep it in his pants was about to cost him $200,000. That same week, I served Jocelyn with formal eviction papers. Had a process server deliver them while she was home. Made sure everything was done legally. Arizona law required 30 days notice, even though she wasn't on any lease or mortgage. My attorney was crystal clear. Do not lock her out. Do not change locks while she's legally residing there. Do everything by the book, or she'll have leverage. So I did it smart. Moved everything valuable to a climate-controlled storage unit. My grandfather's watch collection, power tools, important documents, anything irreplaceable. Installed security cameras in every room, the kind that upload footage to cloud storage automatically. Changed every password on every account. Set up a new email just for communicating with her. Documented everything. Told her she had 24 hours notice for final walkthrough and belongings retrieval. She went absolutely ballistic. Texted me 63 times in one night. I counted, called my family, started running a smear campaign online about how I'd abandoned her during pregnancy, how she was homeless because of my cruelty, how I'd shown my true colors. Her friends left comments calling me every name imaginable. Her mother called crying, asking how I could be so heartless to an innocent woman carrying a child. I didn't respond to any of it, just forwarded everything to my attorney for documentation. Wade tried to corner me at the office the following Monday. Showed up at 6:30 a.m., before anyone else arrived. Probably figured he could intimidate me one-on-one. Adam, man. He spread his hands like he was surrendering. We need to fix this like men. I'll do whatever it takes. I looked him dead in the eyes, kept my voice flat. Contact my attorney if you want to discuss business matters. The color drained from his face. He genuinely hadn't expected me to lawyer up, thought I'd just roll over, let him keep his shares, maybe even keep working together like nothing happened. That's the thing about guys like Wade. They're so used to charming their way out of consequences that they forget some problems can't be solved with a smile and a handshake. The next 3 weeks turned into total war. I started calling our clients directly. Had a list of 23 active accounts that Wade had been managing. Kept it professional. Explained that Wade would no longer be representing the company due to internal restructuring related to ethical violations, and offered to personally oversee their projects going forward. The responses were mixed. First call was to our biggest client, the casino resort people, an old-school businessman who'd been in commercial real estate for 40 years. Thank God, he said when I explained the situation. I've been wanting to say something for months. Wade always felt off, too smooth. Made promises that didn't add up, then acted offended when I asked questions. We only tolerated him because we trusted your work, Adam. Your reputation speaks for itself. Most of the other calls went smoother than expected. A property manager said she'd complained to Wade about him showing up late and smelling off. Wade had told her I knew and approved. Complete lie. I was there at 6 a.m. every day while he rolled in at 10 o'clock. A few clients needed convincing. One medical office owner wanted documentation before making any changes. Fair enough. I sent him the financials showing Wade's unauthorized purchases. He stayed. 3 accounts were already gone. $62,000 in contracts. Lost before I even made the calls. Wade had gotten to them first with some story about me being unstable. Those clients didn't want drama. Can't blame them. I promoted Paul, my lead technician, to operations manager. Guy had been with me 5 years, understood commercial HVAC systems inside and out, gave clients straight answers instead of sales pitches. Clients actually preferred talking to him. His reaction when I told him about Wade and Jocelyn. Boss, everyone knew Wade was a snake. Just didn't think he'd be dumb enough to bite you. Wade and Jocelyn figured out they were losing, so they went scorched earth. Jocelyn started calling my clients, claiming I was having a breakdown and that projects might not be completed. Wade told contractors I'd been making dangerous decisions on job sites and acting unstable. He actually called the casino resort guy and said I'd been drinking during work hours and yelling at employees. Complete lies, but delivered with that same smooth confidence. The casino project went on hold while the client assessed the situation. I didn't argue. I just started collecting proof. Arizona's one-party consent. I'd been recording calls for years for notes. Now I had recordings of 5 different clients telling me exactly what Wade had said about me. Even better, Wade made his sabotage calls using his company phone, the one I still had account access to. Perfect paper trail. My attorney used the word tortious interference and started drafting new documents. Jocelyn escalated on social media, posted a long Instagram story about how I'd abandoned her during pregnancy, how she was homeless because of my cruelty, complete with crying selfies and hashtags like toxic men, narcissist. Her mother called me sobbing. How can you be so heartless to an innocent woman in her condition? I asked if she wanted to discuss the identity of her grandchild's actual father and the embezzlement charges her daughter's boyfriend was facing. That conversation ended real quick. The eviction hearing was supposed to be straightforward. Jocelyn wasn't on any lease or mortgage, had received proper 30-day notice, no legal grounds for extension. Her attorney, some ambulance chaser her parents hired, tried to claim she had implied tenancy rights and requested more time due to her pregnancy and dependent status. The judge looked up from paperwork. Does she have a lease? Any rental agreement? Jocelyn's attorney shuffled papers. No written lease, Your Honor. But she's been living there for. Did she pay rent? The relationship was. Did she or did she not pay rent? Counselor? No, Your Honor. Then she's a guest. Mr. Harper provided proper notice. She has 48 hours to vacate. But before she left, Wade decided to make one final desperate play. And it backfired spectacularly. I still can't believe they thought it would work. 2 days before the final move-out, I went to my house for a condition inspection. Wanted to document everything before Jocelyn left. Had a whole checklist prepared. Things to photograph, measurements to take, damages to record for potential security deposit deductions. Even though there was no deposit because she'd never been an official tenant. I brought Paul as a witness. My attorney had been clear. Never be alone with Jocelyn again. Document everything. Assume you're always being recorded. Bring a witness who can testify if things go sideways. Paul kept his phone in his hand like he was just scrolling, but I told him to hit record the second Wade showed his face. We showed up at 10 a.m., exactly as the eviction notice specified. Knocked on the door of my own house like some kind of visitor. Wade answered, wearing a polo shirt that still had the price tag hanging off the sleeve, like he'd just bought it that morning to look presentable. His truck in my driveway behind Jocelyn's car. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my voice level. Jocelyn invited me to help pack her things, he said. Like that was completely normal. Like he had any right to be in my house. You need to leave now. I have as much right to be here as you do. He actually said that. I'm the father of Jocelyn's baby. That gives me certain rights. I pulled out my phone. Please note the time. Wade admitted his in my house without permission from the property owner. That's trespassing. Paul nodded, pulled out his own phone, started taking notes. Wade's face went red. You can't kick me out. This isn't just your house anymore. Actually, it is. It's in my name. Mortgage is in my name. Jocelyn has 48 hours left as a legal tenant. You have 0 time. Leave now, or I'm calling the police. That's when Jocelyn came out from the bedroom carrying a box of my stuff. My grandfather's coin collection that I kept in the back of my closet. The one worth about $6,000 that Wade probably told her to grab, thinking I wouldn't notice. I put that down. It's mine, I said. She had this entitled look on her face. You gave me access to everything in this house. That means it's community property. We're not married. Community property doesn't exist for us. Put it down. Paul had his phone up, recording everything. Jocelyn's face went from entitled to panicked in about 2 seconds. She set the box down like it was contaminated. I told them both they had 5 minutes to grab whatever they were taking and leave permanently. Wade got in my face, physically close, the kind of aggressive stance guys use when they're trying to intimidate. You can't tell me what to do, Adam. I have rights here. I'm the father of Jocelyn's baby. That gives me a stake. Then he shoved me, both hands on my chest, hard enough to make me stumble back. I could have dropped him. I didn't. I kept my hands visible and let the camera do the work. Wade shoved me again, harder. What are you going to do, tough guy? Then Jocelyn started screaming. Not yelling. Screaming like someone was being murdered. He's attacking Wade. Someone call 911. He's trying to kill him. Paul kept recording, camera steady. I still hadn't touched either of them, hands at my sides. Cops showed up at the house first. Wade did his little performance. Jocelyn backed him up with tears and everything. Later that afternoon, An officer came by my office to get my side. I asked if he wanted to see the video of what actually happened. The footage was crystal clear. Wade shoving me twice while I stood motionless, me never touching either of them. Jocelyn clearly signaling Wade to defend himself from an attack that wasn't happening, her screams starting on cue. The officer's expression changed from professional neutrality to barely contained disgust. Wade got arrested that night for assault, battery, and filing a false police report. Jocelyn got taken in for questioning. By Monday, my attorney told me the DA was looking at false reporting charges. Gavin almost injured himself laughing when I told him. They literally tried to frame you for assault and recorded themselves committing crimes instead. This is like watching someone build an elaborate trap and then step into it themselves. I froze the company accounts the next morning, pending partnership dissolution. By the end of the week, my accountant found another $42,000 in unauthorized expenses we'd missed. Jocelyn's personal trainer, company card. Expensive dinners at restaurants I'd never heard of, company card. A weekend trip to Sedona Wade claimed was client entertainment, company card. Total bill $6,300 including spa packages and ridiculous room service. He'd financed the entire affair using my money, my company, my future. Wade's attorney called 4 days after the arrest. His client faced criminal charges for assault, battery, and filing a false police report. Those were between Wade and the state of Arizona. But the civil side, that was negotiable. He owed restitution. His partnership stake was about to be dissolved for cause, meaning he'd get a fraction of actual value. My attorney made it clear we could pursue additional civil claims for defamation, tortious interference, treble damages for embezzlement. The attorney's voice had this pleading quality I'd never heard from a lawyer. My client is willing to sign over his entire partnership share for $1, resign immediately, and repay unauthorized expenses over 3 years. In exchange, Adam agrees not to pursue additional civil claims, and both parties sign mutual releases. $1. The deal wasn't really about the dollar. It was about mutual releases and avoiding years of civil court. But Wade was still willing to give up his entire business stake, calculated at around $100,000 before the casino deal, just to close this out while dealing with criminal charges. I told the attorney I'd think about it. Gavin's reaction: take it. Take it right now. You get everything. Wade learns the most expensive lesson of his life. And forever you can tell people you bought out your business partner for less than a cup of coffee. My attorney agreed. Fighting in court could take years, cost a fortune, and the risk was always involved. A clean break, Wade gone forever. The business entirely mine, worth more than dragging this out. The signing happened at my attorney's office the following week. Wade looked like he'd aged 15 years and 3 weeks. Gaunt, unshaven, clothes that didn't fit right. The swagger was completely gone. His attorney made one last attempt to negotiate better terms. Maybe some kind of profit sharing, maybe a percentage of future earnings. My attorney pointed to the evidence on the table, the expense reports, the defamatory emails, the assault video, and said, "Your client can sign for $1 and mutual releases, or we add civil fraud, conversion, and interference claims. Criminal charges are out of our hands, but we can make the civil side much more expensive." Wade signed. His hand was shaking. Gavin had insisted on coming as my business consultant. When Wade walked out, Gavin called after him, "Congratulations. You just set the Arizona state record for most expensive affair. 6 months of sneaking around cost you $100,000 in a career. Hope it was worth it." Wade didn't look back. Jocelyn's situation collapsed even faster. Her parents called demanding to know what charges their daughter was facing. I sent them the police report, eviction filings, screenshots of her posts, documentation of property damage. My attorney followed with a demand letter for the ring. She was fired from her pharmaceutical job after complaints about her conduct reached HR. One of those complaints turned into a lawsuit she settled for a chunk of money she didn't have. Other legal and financial fallout followed her for a while. 8 months later, the first few months weren't some movie montage. I paid a disgusting amount in legal fees, lost 3 contracts I'll never get back, and spent more mornings doing damage control than actually running jobs. But the bleeding stopped. The second Wade was gone and Jocelyn was out of the house. I sold the ring as soon as my attorney cleared it. Took that money and bought diagnostic equipment I'd been putting off for years. Then cut bonuses for the guys who stayed solid while my life was getting remodeled with a sledgehammer. Paul handled operations. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't babysitting grown men or apologizing to clients for someone else's sales energy. The casino project eventually came off pause. We finished 3 weeks ahead of schedule, under budget, and the client paid a $20,000 performance bonus I didn't ask for. That one check told me everything I needed to know. The company wasn't Wade and Adam. It was me, my crew, and the work. Wade tried to start his own HVAC company. Lasted 4 months before his first job got shut down by inspectors for code violations, and his second client sued him for breach of contract. Commercial HVAC in Arizona is a small world. Word spread fast about what he'd done. 4 competitors called me for references when he applied with them. I didn't badmouth him, just sent copies of the police reports and the partnership dissolution showing the $1 buyout. Last I heard, he moved to Nevada to stay with some relative. His career in Arizona is over. Jocelyn lost custody of her baby to her parents after getting arrested shoplifting baby formula while driving a leased BMW. Turns out being unemployed, facing fraud charges, and drowning in debt makes you an unfit parent. Last month, both of them showed up at my office without an appointment. Paul saw them first, came to my office looking like he'd seen a ghost. "Boss, Wade and Jocelyn are in the lobby asking to see you. Want me to call the cops?" Part of me wanted to say yes, but another part, the vindictive part, wanted to hear what they could possibly say. Let them in, but stay in the room and record everything. They walked in looking like different people. Wade had lost 40 pounds, clothes hanging off him, hair thinning from stress. Jocelyn was wearing Target clothes and had dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. Both looked broke. Wade had this whole speech prepared. "Adam, man, I know things ended badly. I've been doing a lot of soul-searching. I think if we put aside personal issues and focus on the business opportunity, we could build something even bigger than before." I just stared at him. Jocelyn jumped in. "I made terrible choices, but that doesn't mean we can't move forward. You're doing so well now. Maybe there's a way we could work together professionally. We could bring value to the company." I let the silence stretch out. Watched them squirm. Wade pulled out a folder. Actually brought printed materials like this was a real pitch meeting. "We're proposing a 3-way partnership structure. You maintain majority ownership, but Jocelyn and I would each get 15% equity in exchange for our labor and client relationships. We'd need company vehicles, and you'd need to cover our legal expenses so we can focus on building the business." I stood up. "You're asking me to fund your consequences?" "No." Wade's face went pale. "Adam, please, just escort them out." Jocelyn started crying. "We have nowhere else to go. My parents won't help us. Wade can't find work. That's your problem. You built this. Now you live in it." Wade actually pulled out the Brotherhood card. "Remember what we built together? That has to count for something. It counted when I bought him out for $1. We're done here." Paul stepped forward. They both just stood there for a second, finally realizing there was no angle left to play. Then Jocelyn started full-on sobbing, and Wade got this broken look on his face. Gavin, who'd been pretending to review paperwork in the corner, muttered, "Maybe next time, don't mess where you eat." They left. 2 adults in their 30s crying in my parking lot because they finally understood some mistakes can't be undone. I felt bad for about 15 seconds. Then I went back to work. As for me, I'm 33, debt-free, the company's stable, Paul's running operations, and I don't wake up with that knot in my stomach anymore. Wade and Jocelyn made their choices. Now they live with them. Game over. Guys, we are so close to hitting 3,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 3,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come.